And as a researcher now, visceral fat going on 10 years, more than 10 years, nothing improves a human being more, in my experience, than getting rid of visceral fat. And you should try. What do you have to lose than to give it a try? And so let's get started on it. So what is visceral fat? It's this fat stuff right in the middle of the abdomen, okay? So we scan people right kind of like at the level of their belly button and the transverse plane, so a slice through their abdomen.
And by the way, just
slice sort of like a pizza through the abdomen of somebody, okay? And we're going to look at a cross-section, an axial plane, transverse plane in the abdomen, or what's going on inside of somebody. We do multiple slices, but probably the one area that we look at the most is probably right around the third lumbar body, kind of near your belly button. So when it comes to an MRI scan, what you want to look like is mostly oval. Let's take you back to when Dave Duran was 16. Well, actually, Dave, we'd probably start with your abdomen today. I'm thinking your abdomen will probably be pretty oval, but the majority of your listeners, not so much if they get to the age of 30, 40, 50, and 60. This guy is 30. His abdomen is mostly oval, and you want to be mostly dark, okay? He's mostly dark. He's mostly muscle, mostly organs. This guy, this image below, he's 32, but it's like bricks and clouds difference, goats and sheep. They're very different. This guy's mostly white. He's more of a barrel shape, and he has very little dark. So guess what? When you're filled with visceral fat, it shrinks your dark. It makes it go away. You start losing your muscle. Heads up. What's happening to all these 80, 90-year-olds out there? They got like no muscle. They're skin and bones because visceral fat came in and destroyed their muscularity. So unless you know that you got this enemy inside of you, it's literally causing atrophy of your muscles called sarcopenia, the loss of muscle mass. You won't read you can read about it, but you won't get much discussion from your doctor about it because he or she has no cure for it. But as soon as there's a treatment pill option, Big Pharma, it'll be all over. But right now, they're not talking about it. But visceral fat is the cause, and you want to get rid of it. So more white, you'll end up with less dark. You got more dark, you'll have less white. So it's all lifestyle driven. So this guy has two conditions. He's obese, and he's also sarcopenic. So this is the guy who was mostly dark, very little white. He's a colleague, friend in the Army National Guard with me. I'm still active duty. I'm still lieutenant colonel. And he's very thin. He trains a lot of people. Now let's look at another great MRI. This is a female. This is the healthiest abdominal MRI I've seen in a female. And I encountered this person on social media, on Instagram. But we'll start with their MRI. It's almost all dark and no white. So they're incredibly healthy. But let's look at this person's, just coincidentally, I was doing an Instagram live with this person just today, about 2 hours ago. So I found her about a year ago. Her name is Carolyn LaBoucherie. She's got 700,000 followers. Very nice figure, very nice abdomen, nice healthy legs, very healthy, nice toned arm. Look at that gorgeous, healthy, thick hair. You don't have to be a physician to look at this lady and say, wow. Most guys will look at her and say she's attractive. I'm a health researcher and say, wow, she's super healthy. And a very healthy face, a very pretty face. Now, she is attractive and pretty, and that's why she's got 700,000 followers. But behind all of that is really because she's so healthy. Well, the interesting thing is this lady is 59 years old. 59. She's older than you are, Dave. And what she did, she went early on. Her mom went on the Atkins diet and cut out processed foods, cut out carbohydrates. Only when the rest of the world and people around, start listening to government saying you got to cut out fat. Fat's the problem, and eat carbs. Carolyn and her family stayed off of processed foods and kept eating healthy fats. So she ended up with an MRI like this now, and a body that looks like this. Now, here's the take-home point. Carolyn looks this good and performs as well as she does and has all this influence on people all over the globe, not because she doesn't have visceral fat, is because she never had visceral fat. She never had the influence of visceral fat destroying her body. So Carolyn got to enjoy a life of being beautiful and healthy right up to the age of 59. And she's going to have that till she's 120 because she's never going to get that visceral fat. So do not allow that visceral fat in you. And if you got it, get rid of it so you can be in the business of optimizing your body, not just get healthy and taking pills, but you want to optimize that body and recover from it.
So I have a couple of different questions because what I'm trying to do is handle objections that pop up in people's minds like this and curiosity they have about this. So first of all, you are saying if you aren't Carolyn and you did make the mistake of building all this bad habits, you can recover.
Absolutely.
Not eating enough fat also has a detrimental effect, though. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I mean, the two things you must eat are protein and fat. Carbohydrates, it's interesting. They don't even teach this really in medical school. Carbohydrates, not a single bit of carbohydrates is part of anything in your body. Everything in your body that you can touch and look at, all your beautiful organs and cells, all come from just protein and fat, nothing else. Carbohydrates are just energy. It's exogenous energy. And what I like to get people to do is to make the very best form than something that comes outside of your body. So it's not an essential macronutrient. Carbohydrates are not because your body can make it. Vitamins your body can't make, so you gotta take them. Protein your body can't make, and fat your body can't make. So you got to get these things exogenously. That's why they are central macronutrients. But carbohydrates are just extra. They pour it in, and I like the idea of having my body make the perfect form of carbohydrates, in its perfect form, glycogen through gluconeogenesis. And when your body makes the perfect form, it can use it way better than an exogenous form. So really, when you take carbohydrates, it's a bit like riding up a building in a escalator or taking an elevator. It's kind of a way of cheating to make it easier. I make my body make it. So fat and protein is what you need. Carbohydrates you do not need, and you actually optimize your life getting those correct forms of molecules, macronutrients in your body correctly. So I'm not an anti-carber. I just throw down a lot of caution about carbohydrates, and I issue insights into why you want to maximize your fat and your protein. By the way, this is one of the 10 fastest men in the world. He's an Olympic sprinter. So let's look at those stakes and go back and try to rethink again what's happening from a dietary standpoint. This is a cow fed a lot of carbohydrates, a non-specific species-appropriate diet. Cows eat grass. We should all know that. But this cow is only fed grass and grass finish and grass fed. And so it's very lean, does not have mild steatosis. It's got NCHAP fat. That stuff is awesome. I would scavenge that body to eat the healthy fat, on this animal. But the bad fat ain't there because this cow lived the way it should, out in the field, rolling around in the sunshine, mating and having, fun in the sun and eating what it was supposed to, grass, and not fed a man-made diet to produce profit. It literally, when you feed these carbohydrates, increases the revenue of that cow. When it steps on the scale, it earns more money for the owner of that cow, that steer or whatever piece of beef, cattle going to, ranchers growing because of all that disease. So corn, soy, grains, it looks like Wagyu beef, those cows can't even reproduce. They're so diseased because they're concentrating on all this disease. They become infertile. They can't, the babies die when they're born. So now they take the embryos and put them in other cows. And then they take that baby Wagyu bred cow and sell it. This is insane. And the consumer has no idea. They think Wagyu beef and this marbleized beef is healthy. And they found out if they cut off the horns from these animals that they get even more of this. It's crazy. So now they're cutting off, making these animals more diseased, and they pen them up and they're not out and walking around fields. So you do not want to look like this. And by the way, cattle feed truck turned over recently, Dave, on a highway, and it was pictures were on the internet and you can search for it. In the middle of the cattle feed were all these bright little colors, red, blue, purple, yellow, green. And you know what it was? Skittles. They're feeding cattle in their grain Skittles to get this.
Wow.
Any of you guys feeding your kids candy?
I would imagine there's a lot. So what's the relationship between exercise and all this? Let's see, you ate perfectly, like you talk about, but a person is sedentary. What effect does that have? Like, I don't know, is it possible to use this language? Hey, 60% of this is eating right and 40% is fitness, or is there a way to do that?
Well, I'll throw it around and say it's difficult to do, but I will say, without a doubt, it's more about what you eat than how you exercise. So let me share with you why. And this series of scans, it's the same person. We scan them 6 times over the course of 35 weeks. They're a 68-year-old CEO of a company, owner of a company. I call him a curmudgeon because he wouldn't do what we wanted to do for the National Science Foundation. But I'm so glad that he was a curmudgeon because he gave us a really cool insight into science that we never would have done without him being stubborn. So what he did was he would not follow our recommendations. So we came up with like how to exercise and how to live. He simply would only cut out processed foods, cut out carbohydrates. So he cut out carbohydrates. He ate meat and fat and meat and vegetables. And so this was his first scan. And you could see right up here, a huge amount of visceral fat that he has there and a large amount of fat in his muscle, that's human marbling. And from here to here is only 2 weeks. And Dave Duran has probably never even seen a abdominal MRI scan. I don't think you've been to medical school yet, but Dave's already calculated in his sharp mind that red is less. He has less visceral fat in 2 weeks just from cutting out those carbohydrates. And so when he eliminated those processed foods, especially processed carbohydrates, he reduced his visceral fat in a very short period of time. But over the course of the series of those scans, after 35 weeks, he went from having a dad bod, big barrel belly, to having a body like a collegiate athlete, like he was a swimmer in his 20s. And the only thing he did, Dave, was he cut out those processed carbohydrates. So he did not exercise 1 minute. Now, this scan astounded me because I was a big-time exerciser, and I had assumed that exercise is really important. Now, to be sure, it is really important, but it's not as important as getting control of your diet and what goes into your most important physical asset is your body. And so you really want to fuel it with appropriate fuel. Nothing should be going into your most important physical asset. I happen to feel my soul is my most important asset, but my physical asset that I can touch is my body. So I really care, and I get my clients to care about that physicality, their asset, not put in bad fuel. So this nicely exemplifies